We'll be starting in a minute. Hi everybody, welcome to beautiful Mitzvah Yericho here in Eretz Yisrael, here in the land of Israel. And I'm sure many of you have been home all day long and you're just dying to hear a good story, and I have one for you. Many times we're not sure why things happen to us. Sometimes things seem really bad and we're not sure why is it happening? And sometimes we lose a toy, or sometimes we get sick, or sometimes we do something wrong, we get in trouble and we get punished. And we look around and we say, why did that have to happen to me? Of all the people, I'm such a good person and Hashem loves me. So why should that happen to me? I don't understand. And there's a great story, a really just an amazing story found in something called the Gemara. And the Gemara was written far away from here, far away from Eretz Yisrael, but a lot of the stories took place right here in Eretz Yisrael. Sometimes not so far from where I'm standing now at my house here, right outside of Yerushalayim, between Yerushalayim and an old city called Yericho, which is right over there. That's the new city of Yericho. So this story took place not so far from here in Eretz Yisrael. And it stars somebody who we all know, and we all love, we've all heard of before. His name is Rebbe Akiva. And Rebbe Akiva was a big Talmid Chacham. He wasn't a Talmid Chacham his whole life. In the beginning of his life, he didn't really know what the Torah was all about. He had no idea. Until he was 40 years old, he had never studied Torah. He was a shepherd. He used to take the sheep out and graze in hills just like the ones behind me. And he would take his sheep out and look around. He looked around the world, and no one ever taught him Torah. No one gave him the chance to learn Torah, to study Torah, to hear about Hashem, to hear about all the wonderful things that happened to Bnei Israel. He just didn't know anything about them. And Rabbi Akiva lived at a time that was really hard for the Jewish people. At a time, Rabbi Akiva was the greatest teacher. He had 24,000 students. 24,000 students is like a whole stadium full of people. Can you imagine teaching with a classroom that big? Sometimes we have 15 people in our class. Sometimes we have 20 people in our class. Sometimes we have a really big class. We have 30 people. Sometimes we have an assembly like before Shabbat, and that's, 500 people. But can you imagine teaching 24,000 people? That's how many students Rabbi Akiva had, a lot. He had 24,000 students. But even though he had those 24,000 students, he lived at a really hard time for the Jewish people. Why was it so hard here in Eretz Yisrael for the Jewish people? Well, first of all, this was about 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago. And there were people that came from Rome. They were called the Romans. And they were not nice to the Jewish people. They didn't let the Jewish people study Torah in public. They didn't let the Jewish people keep Shabbat. They had a lot of things they didn't let the Jewish people do. And eventually they were so mean, they destroyed our Beit HaMikdash. And then they were even meaner. They started to really kill and hurt a lot of our Rabbanim, a lot of our teachers, a lot of Talmidei Chachamim, and a lot of people it was just so hard here. You wanted to go out and learn Torah, and you couldn't. You wanted to keep Shabbat, and you weren't allowed to. There were just so many bad things the Romans would do. And Rabbi Akiva, a lot of times, had to travel all throughout this land, all throughout Eretz Yisrael. And whenever he would travel throughout Eretz Yisrael, he had to be very careful. He had to know who were his friends and who weren't his friends. And a lot of bad things happened to Rabbi Akiva, and you can imagine the people that he was with. A lot of times they'd say, Rebbe, our teacher, our rabbi, please explain to us, why are these bad things happening? And Rabbi Akiva used to say something. It's in a language we don't speak that much anymore. I'm going to say the words in the original language, and then I'm going to translate it for you. Rabbi Akiva would say, Kol da'avid rachmana letav avid. All that Hashem does for us, all that Hashem does is for the good. Everything he does is for the good. If it rains, it's for the good. If it's sunny, it's for the good. If there's lightning and thunder and we're scared, it's still for the good. Even bad things, we lose a toy, it's for the good. Whatever it is that happens, kol da'avid rachmana letav avid. Everything Hashem does is for the best. It doesn't matter what it is. It's all for the best. And every once in a while, something bad would happen. Rabbi Akiva would remind his students, his Talmidim, he would remind them about that everything Hashem does is for the best. And his Talmidim would sit there, his students would sit there and say, okay, I don't see it right now. I don't know that it's for the best. But if Rabbi Akiva tells us it's for the best, if he says that everything Hashem does is for the best, it must be. And they would go on. And sometimes they would see it. And this story that I'm going to tell you now, this story, we saw it right away. Right away we saw how good it was. Let me tell you what happened. Rabbi Akiva was walking in mountains like this. And he was walking with a couple of his students. And he had 3 things with him. He had a donkey, he had a rooster, and he had a lamp. And that's who he'd go around with, a donkey, a rooster, and a lamp. Now, if you came to Israel today, some of you probably live in Israel, and some of you have probably been here on a trip, on a vacation, and some of you probably have seen pictures of Israel. But if you look around Israel today, there are roads, and there are hotels, and there are streets, and highways, and cars. But 2,000 years ago, that's not how Eretz Yisrael looked. Eretz Yisrael looked like this. Just mountains. There was nothing else here, just mountains. And every once in a while, you'd run into a very small village, a small town. There was also big cities like Yerushalayim, but every once in a while you'd run into a small town. But everywhere in between the small towns, there was just either a forest or a desert. There wasn't really anything that you couldn't call a hotel or go to a restaurant like you could today in Eretz Yisrael. It wasn't like that back then. Back then, there wasn't much. So Rabbi Akiva went with a couple of his students, and he had with him this rooster and a lamp, and he probably either walked alongside his donkey, or sometimes he probably rode on top of his donkey, and his donkey probably carried some of the Talmidim's things that they had, and they would walk. And where would they get food, and where would they get a drink from, and where would they sleep? So they would, every once in a while, they would go to a village. And then in the village, people would be, wow, that's Rabbi Akiva. Wow, the big rabbi is here. I hope he eats at my house. I hope I get the mitzvah of having a Talmid Chacham, a big Torah scholar, a big Torah teacher at my house. And they would have him at their house. And they'd give them something to eat. And then Rabbi Akiva would probably thank them. And he would probably share some words of Torah with them. He'd give them a Dvar Torah, teach them something, maybe about that week's Parsha, or maybe a halacha, something he would teach them. And they would do that. They would walk around, and that's how they would get around. That's how they would eat. Maybe sometimes they had to buy food somewhere, but that's how Rabbi Akiva would go around. So one day, this is where our story takes place. Rabbi Akiva is walking around Eretz Yisrael. He's walking around Eretz Yisrael, and they get to a town, and it's getting towards the end of the day like it is here in Eretz Yisrael today. And Rabbi Akiva says, this is a good place, this town is a good place to stop. We'll stop here. So they walk into the village. Now you're probably picturing in your mind a big town, couple thousand people. They have a big street in the middle. Maybe no traffic lights though. They had no cars, so there's no streets really. A small village, maybe 20 houses, maybe 30 houses. And they look to see, are there Jewish people living here? Are there not Jewish people living here? How did they know? Oh, they probably looked to see if there was a mezuzah. If there was a mezuzah, then they knew that it was Jewish people, and it was a Jewish town. So they go into the town. There's probably a big Knesset, and they knock on the first door. A fine Jew opens the door, and he says, well, how can I help you? And he says, well, my name is Akiva. He probably didn't call himself Rabbi Akiva. He probably just called himself Akiva. He said, my name is Akiva. These are my students. This is my donkey, my rooster, my lamp. We're looking for a place to sleep tonight. Do you have a place where we could sleep? And the person says, oh, so sorry. Our house is full. We don't have room. It would have been so nice. Maybe another time? Akiva says, okay. Close the door. Akiva turns, and his students look at him and they said, no. Akiva says, don't worry. Kol ta'avid rachmana l'tavavid. Everything Hashem does is for the best. There's a reason why that happened. Okay? So, they go on to the next house, knock on the door. A fine Jew opens the door. A person that does a lot of mitzvot. Husband and wife come to the door, and they said, hi, we're whatever family name they were, how can we help you? And Rabbi Akiva says, my name is Akiva, and these are some of my students. This is my donkey, and my rooster, and my lamp, and we're traveling all over Eretz Yisrael, and we need a place to stay. Can we stay at your house tonight? And the couple looks at each other. He said, oh, we would love to have you, but I'm not feeling so well, and our house isn't made up. We can't have you. We're so sorry. Maybe another night. Maybe you come back tomorrow night. We'll clean up the house a little. It'll be better. And they close the door. Akiva turns to his Talmidim. His Talmidim turn to him. Two people said no. Akiva says, don't worry. Kol da'avid rachmana l'tavavid. Everything Hashem does is for the best. So they go to the next house. Knock on the door. Person opens the door. A fine Jew opens the door. What a great person. Does mitzvot, does everything. He says, oh, I recognize you. It's Rabbi Akiva. What a pleasure. Oh, so great. Rabbi Akiva, how could I help you? And so Rabbi Akiva says, well, I am Akiva. These are my students. This is my rooster. This is my donkey. This is my lamp. And we're looking for a place to sleep tonight. Could we maybe stay by you? He says, oy vey, I would have loved to have you. But we're having some construction and renovations on our house. No, it's not the best night. But it would have been such a schus, such a merwa. It would have been so great if only we weren't doing these renovations. I'm so sorry. Close the door. Akiva turns to his Talmidim. He's a little embarrassed. Talmidim say 3 times. Akiva says, oh, don't worry. Kol ta'avid rachmana l'tavavid. Everything Hashem does is for the best. And they go knock on every door in the whole town. And every door, they're so excited to have him, and they love doing mitzvot. But, unfortunately, they couldn't have Rabbi Akiva that night. They get to the last house, the door closes, and his Talmidim say, Rabbi Akiva, what are we going to do? It's almost dark out. We're outside. We don't have a place to stay. And Rabbi Akiva says, don't worry. Kol David Rachmana l'tavavid. Everything Hashem does is for the best. Look, there's a forest over there. Tonight's a perfect night for camping. Let's go camping. We'll put the rooster down. We'll tie the donkey up. We'll sit around. We'll learn some Torah. And when we get tired, we'll fall asleep. It's a nice night out. It's not so cold. We don't even need a jacket. It's no problem. Okay, so they go out to the forest. They tie the donkey on a tree far away. They put the rooster in a place where it can't really go anywhere. They light the lamp, and the Talmidim sit around, 3 or 4 Talmidim, and Rabbi Akiva starts teaching Torah. All of a sudden, wind starts blowing. Lots of wind that shakes the trees, the wind, and all of a sudden Rabbi Akiva's lamp goes out. Talmidim say, "Oh, Rebbe, it's dark now. What are we going to do?" So Rabbi Akiva says, "Talmidim, what do I always teach you? Don't worry. Kol da'avid rachmana l'tav avid. Everything Hashem does is for the best. This is going to be okay." Okay, it's dark, a little cold, it was windy. All of a sudden, one of the Talmidim looks over where the rooster was and says, "Rebbe, where's your rooster?" Akiva says, "Well, we put it over there." He says, "I know we put it over there, but look, it's not there." They look, it's not there. It's hard to see because there's no lamp, but the rooster for sure is not there. And they look and they see a cat is dragging the rooster away. And it's too fast for them. You've seen the cats in Eretz Yisrael. They're everywhere and they get everything they want. And he drags the rooster. That's it, no more rooster. "Rebbe, how are you going to wake up in the morning? Your rooster," was what today we would call as an alarm clock. "How are you going to wake up without your rooster?" Akiva says, "Oh, that's a tough one. But you know what? Kol da'avid rachmana l'tav avid. Everything Hashem does is for the best. There's got to be a reason why the lamp went out because of the wind, and why the cat took the rooster. I'm sure there's a reason." And one of the Talmidim says, "Well, at least we have the donkey." So, Rabbi Akiva continues teaching Torah, and they hear a horrible shriek, a horrific shriek, a scream like they've never heard before. And they look, and right in front of them, is a lion. And he's eating the donkey. And the Talmidim are terrified. That's a donkey the lion eating the donkey. They're so scared. And Rabbi Akiva says, "Shh." The lion quickly drags the donkey away. And the Talmidim say, Rebbe, there's a lion. And a lion. It was almost going to eat us. It ate the donkey. Now we don't have the donkey. We don't have the rooster. We don't have the lamp. We're out here alone. It's just us. Akiva, a little shaken up by that lion. You don't see a lion near you every day. Akiva looks around to make sure there's no more lions. Looks around and he says, "Listen, it's very hard. We couldn't find a place to sleep. The wind came and blew out our lamp. And a cat came and dragged away our rooster. And then a lion came and ate our donkey. Yeah, it's not easy. But you know what? I know Hashem is behind it. I know that this is going to be okay. Kol man da'avid rachmana l'tav avid. Everything Hashem does, you finish it. Can't hear you. For the best. Right? That's everything Hashem does is for the best. So they keep learning Torah till late into the night. They didn't have clocks back then. They didn't have watches. They didn't know what time it was. But it was pretty late. So late, the moon had risen. It had gone down already. The stars were out. It was a beautiful night. And soon the Talmidim fall asleep. Well, they overslept a little because they didn't have the rooster to wake them up. And they woke up in the morning. And they stretched. Took out a little water. Washed their hands. Said brachot. Took out their tefillin and their talis. And they davened. And then they fold everything up and they decide to go into the town and see what's going on. And they go into the town. It's empty. The town is empty. They knock on every door. No one's there. They go into the shul, into the Beit Knesset. No one's there. The whole town is gone. The whole town is gone. And then they hear noises right outside the town. Kiva and his students quickly hide a little. They look around to see what's going on, and they see, remember we talked about in the beginning, the bad Romans? There's a whole brigade, a lot of Roman soldiers. And they're surrounding the people from the town. And they've tied all the people in the town up in chains. They're captives. They kidnapped them all. They took them prisoner. The Romans had come in and they stole everything from all the people in the town. They took them all out of their houses. They chained them up and they were about to march them off. And Rabbi Akiva couldn't believe it. He's looking at this and he says to his Talmidim, shh. We don't want them to know that we're here. To be very quiet. And they watch. So scary. They watch the Roman soldiers lead the Jewish people from the town away in chains, and the people are crying. And Rabbi Akiva turns to his students and he says to them, now do you see? Let's imagine what would have happened last night if things had gone the way we wanted them to go. If we had knocked on the doors of the people's houses and they would have been so excited to have us and they would have put up us in their houses, then what would have happened? We'd be captives. The Roman army came in the middle of the night and they knocked on all the doors and they took everybody out of the houses and they stole everything, and then we would have been chained up and locked up and led away. Who knows where those people are going to be taken? Jail, maybe back to Rome. But that's what would happen to us. And he says, imagine if, even if they didn't have us at their house, if they took us into the forest. Imagine if they took us into the forest, and in the forest, they would have seen our lamp. They would have found us. Or imagine if they would have heard the rooster in the morning, or the donkey making noises. Hashem must have sent the wind, and Hashem must have sent the cat to take the rooster, and Hashem must have sent the lion to take the donkey. And we all thought it was all so bad. We thought everything was so bad because all those things were so, we loved them. But, Kol da'avid rachmana l'tav avid. Everything Hashem does is for the best. And even though we didn't know it right then and there, every single time it happened, when the lion came, we were so scared. And when the cat dragged the rooster away, we were so upset. And when the wind blew out the lamp, we were so worried. And when no one would have us at their house, we were so sad. But now we see it was for the best. Hashem did it for the best for us. What an amazing lesson Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim learned. How incredible is that lesson? How important is it? Now, I'm not sure where you are in the world. I'm sure you all live in some place special. I live in a special place here in Mitzpeh Yericho, and we all get to live in special places. And a lot of us aren't going to go to school tomorrow. And a lot of us aren't going to get to see our friends tomorrow. And a lot of us aren't going to get to do fun things tomorrow. And it's going to be pretty hard. And maybe it's not going to be tomorrow, and maybe it won't be the next day. And it could be a long time before we get to go back to school and see our Rebbe and see our Mora and see our Mora. And it's going to be a long time until we get to go back. And it's going to be very hard. And we sit here and say, why? Why are all these bad things happening? And some people are going to get sick, and it's going to be very hard, and we're not going to get to see some people. And it's going to be very hard. Very, very hard. And we're going to say, why? But then we have to remember what Rabbi Akiva taught us. What did Rabbi Akiva tell us? Kol da'avid rachmana l'tav avid. Maybe your mommy, daddy, your abba, nima, maybe they'll help you write this down. This line. And maybe we could hang it on our fridge. Say that everything Hashem does is for the best. And we get a little sad, and we get a little upset, and we get a little scared. We can go to the fridge and we can look at that sign. We could say, I know. Everything Hashem does is for the best. Kol David Rahman Allah Tavavid. And we can remember Rabbi Akiva. And we can remember how Rabbi Akiva was scared. And Rabbi Akiva was upset. And Rabbi Akiva was sad. And his students were sad. But in the end, it was all for the best. Kol David Rahman Allah Tavavid. So I hope you'll remember that lesson. And I hope you'll join me again tomorrow. Because we'll come back tomorrow. And I'll have another great story for you. Thanks so much for coming today and joining me for this wonderful Torah lesson. Shalom to all.